Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Amina. I am part of the Amana Fitness team, and I will be your host for today's webinar, inshallah. So before we actually start the webinar, I just want to let you all know if you guys have any questions at all throughout the webinar, make sure to just type it in the chat and make sure to send it to everyone. And we will be collecting those questions and we'll be answering them all at the end of the webinar, inshallah. Also, I really wanted to let you all know about the Ramadan Reset program that we're running right now to help prepare you for Ramadan. I especially want to bring attention to the Ramadan Reset guidebook. So a lot of people think that it's normal to feel tired or hungry or have less energy during Ramadan, but that is so far from the truth. So this guidebook is actually a really easy way to help you make the most out of your Ramadan and to help keep your energy high. So the guidebook is full of super helpful resources, including over 70 delicious recipes that are designed to be tasty, healthy, and easy to make. It also includes a super easy to follow 30-day meal plan, as well as workout plans and printables that you could use for this Ramadan, future Ramadans, and honestly, you can use them all year round as well. It has 158 pages, and it's so easy to use, follow, and implement into your daily life, helping to keep you healthy, fit, and energetic this Ramadan, inshallah. Another amazing part of you buying this guidebook is that 100% of all of the profits will be donated to the Baraka Box Food Bank to help feed families in need. So by purchasing this guidebook, you are sharing a healthy Ramadan with both your family and families in need. And mashallah, thousands of Muslims have already benefited from the guidebook, as you can see from these reviews. And we really, really hope that you guys will too. And you get lifetime access to it. So you will always have it with you and you'll be able to use it every Ramadan and all year round if you want as well. And yeah, so make sure you get the Ramadan guidebook. And now, without further ado, introducing Amina Khan. Amina is an award-winning fitness coach and the founder of Amana Fitness. She has inspired thousands of busy Muslim families all over the world to start exercising with her fast, fun, and modest at-home workouts. She's currently completing her Ph.D. degree in health psychology. And without further ado, here is Amina Khan.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Amina, for starting off this webinar, and I'm really excited to chat with all of you about healthy eating in Ramadan and really using our food to energize our best fast, inshallah. So I just like to make sure everyone can see the chat and find the chat. So here is some fun Ramadan trivia just to get started. How many years does it take for Ramadan to reach the same date on the Gregorian calendar? So Ramadan's going to start around April 12th, April 13th. How many years will it take for us to come back to Ramadan on the same date in the Gregorian calendar? Drop it in the chat. What's your guess? If you know, let's see. Ooh, some good guesses coming in. 30, 33, 10. All right. So it's a 33-year Ramadan cycle. This is a graphic from Al Jazeera, and so it really shows that the lunar calendar, because it's shorter, every 33 years Ramadan will come around to the same time in the year. So that's pretty cool, and you can kind of see how it shifts. And I'd also love to know, what are your biggest food struggles in Ramadan? Let us know in the chat. Nadia is saying fried food, overeating. We're definitely going to be talking about that. Food coma after iftar. Oh, many of us can relate, and definitely we'll be sharing some really practical solutions to deal with that. All right, so let's jump in. Healthy eating in Ramadan. And the main principle that I want y'all to keep in mind is healthy eating really is about eating for fuel in Ramadan and enjoying all of our favorite foods in moderation. You guys are going to see as we're going through, I don't want you to think about depriving yourself and, having to eat only certain foods. We want to be eating all of your foods, enjoying all of your foods, but in the right amount for your body and in a way that really makes sense during Ramadan, inshallah. I want to remind everyone that in Ramadan, a lot of times I hear that, okay, I don't have time to be healthy. And I want to remind you that this is really, it's a deception. It's something that isn't true. It's a misconception, because in Ramadan, and especially when we're thinking about our healthy eating, we're talking about things that you're already doing. We're talking about your food choices. So the suhoor and iftar that you are already having, how can we make that the healthiest possible? How can we make sure that that is optimized for high energy? You're already going to be having suhoor and iftar, inshallah, so let's make it count. So as y'all know, in Ramadan, of course, we have two main feeding opportunities. And so there's challenges at each one that we're going to discuss today. So obviously at suhoor time, there's that big risk of sleeping through suhoor, missing suhoor, and not having that extra fuel to energize you through your fasting day. At iftar time, then there's that risk of kind of grazing, this grazing behavior in which we're just constantly overfeeding ourselves throughout the rest of the evening. So those are challenges that we want to address today, inshallah. So jumping into suhoor. So first of all, I really want to emphasize, don't skip suhoor. First of all, of course, from the perspective that the Prophet ﷺ emphasized and highlighted the importance of suhoor. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Eat suhoor, for there are blessings in it. It is a meal of blessings, so do not leave it, even if one of you just takes a sip of water." So it's such a beautiful opportunity, and with that intention that it's a prophetic act. It's a sunnah where we're reviving that sunnah, having that focus not to skip suhoor. And also keep in mind, when we skip suhoor, we are increasing the length of our fast unnecessarily. So I know that it's hard for all of us to, wake up and push yourself to eat in that early morning hours, but hopefully, inshallah, some of the strategies we'll talk about today in terms of making simple food choices and having prep ahead ideas are ways that we can simplify your suhoor to make it easier, inshallah. So what's for suhoor? What's on your suhoor plate? Drop in the chat what are some common things that you find yourself eating during suhoor, and we can go from there. So essentially the main goal at suhoor time is that we want to keep you feeling full as long as possible during the fasting day. So we're going to be thinking about prioritizing foods that have long-lasting energy, that are going to really have that slower digestion effect so that we can keep ourselves feeling full and satiate our appetite. And I'm going to give you some principles to think about having on your suhoor plate, and then we're going to give you lots of examples, because I know that what everyone loves to eat is so different, and so by learning these principles, we can make sure that what our family loves is making its place on our suhoor plate, but we're having these principles we can apply to make sure it's fitting our needs throughout the fast. So the first thing that you really want to think about having on your suhoor plate is high fiber foods. Fiber really is amazing because it satiates your appetite and keeps us feeling full longer. As soon as I say fiber, I think everyone quickly jumps towards thinking about breads, and of course there's fantastic fiber in there, but just to point out, if we look at the fiber meter, that in terms of what are some even better options for fiber, greens, leafy greens, spinach, other fruits like bananas, dates are packed with fiber, apples. Anytime you think of a food or a fruit or some veggies that is like crunchy, when you're chewing some salad, that crunch in it, that's that fiber. I like to think of fiber as like packing tape that makes the foods stay with you for nice and longer, and takes up that nice space. So fiber is fantastic. You can think about fruits, apples, bananas, oranges, berries, great fiber in there. Veggies, carrots, beet, broccoli, spinach, seeds like chia or flax seeds, if you're putting those into your oatmeal, fantastic options. Whole grains, of course, have fiber in them as well. And aside from just thinking about breads, let's also think about other whole grains like barley or quinoa or oats. I know that overnight oats are so popular. Those complex carbohydrates, those brown carbohydrates are fantastic options. Keep your carbohydrates complex at suhoor, and you'll enjoy that high fiber. So fiber is one thing that we definitely want to have. Sister Ruth is saying porridge with some peanut butter, fantastic. Dates, water, and yogurt, all great options you guys are sharing in the chat. So fiber is something that we want to look out for at suhoor. And another really awesome thing that we want to be prioritizing at suhoor is our protein, trying to get our protein up. And so this is something that you can really look at when you're putting your food on your plate for suhoor. Just have a quick look. Is there anything on this plate that's going to give me protein? A lot of times, and this is really coming from that standard American diet, breakfast, the typical breakfast that we think of is often very carbohydrate heavy. But actually the research shows that a high protein breakfast will have a better result and a better effect on your post-meal ghrelin response. So ghrelin is the hunger hormone. Ghrelin is responsible for making you feel hungry. So this study actually looked at and found that the most satiated satiating macronutrient in terms of how hungry you'll feel and how soon you'll feel hungry after your meal is high protein meals rather than high carbohydrate meals. So getting in that protein right at suhoor is so important. And there's so many options for protein that I don't want you to just think when we think of protein of chicken or meat, right? There's so many beautiful sources of protein that are going to help you feel fuller for longer. It's going to suppress ghrelin, that hunger hormone, which is so helpful when we're going to be fasting, right? We want to feel nice and satiated throughout the fasting day. So some awesome protein winners are, of course, we have, your meats, right? Chicken breast, that's or other meats. Those are going to be great protein sources, but also non-animal protein sources are fantastic. Yogurt, Greek yogurt is great. I see many of you saying yogurt in the chat, which is awesome. Cottage cheese, dairy sources are good sources of protein as well if you're not lactose intolerant. We have our eggs, which are fantastic. Chickpeas, full beans, any type of canned beans, peanut butter, look for sugar, no sugar added peanut butter. All of those are great options to really have that nice opportunity to get some protein in. Hannah is mentioning what about healthy fats? Of course, avocados, nuts, those are fantastic options to have at suhoor as well. Keep those in mind as we're building at your suhoor meal. Typically you want to be thinking about the three major macronutrients, right? So you want to be thinking about your protein, your carbohydrates, and your healthy fats. All of those are fantastic to include in your suhoor meal, and you can really quickly do a little visual check of your suhoor plate. Do I have all of these three macronutrients on my plate? That's always a fantastic way to plan at your suhoor. So avoid those, just cereal, just breads. Try and build out your meal a little bit more with adding that protein in there, and you'll definitely feel much more satisfied at suhoor. And a simple way to look at it is that, how many food groups do you have? Trying to increase that amount at suhoor is really helpful in building out your suhoor to make it more satiating. So some really practical examples here, which many of you have highlighted a lot of these in the chat. Sister Ruth mentioned porridge, so we have some porridge. Again, let's build that out. Let's make it more nutritious. Maybe you can have some side salad, right? Just again to increase that fiber and nutrients in there. Or some eggs on the side. A really, I think, helpful strategy is, just to make this really nice and quick, you can get these pre-washed bags of lettuce or spinach from your grocery store. Just having those on hand in your fridge during Ramadan, you can just grab a handful and add them to the side out of any meal is a great way to bump up the fiber and the nutrition. So you can always do that at any time. For those of you who enjoy cereal, definitely make that cereal just a little bit more robust. So first of all, make sure that you're looking for one that doesn't have those added sugars in it, and you can increase the added fiber, that added nutrition by adding some berries on top of it, some milk for that for added protein boost, and maybe again add an apple or some fruit, some sugar-free peanut butter. All of that is a great way to again build up the suhoor, so it's a little bit more complex and going to have that energy that's going to stay with you for longer. Many of you mentioned yogurt, which is awesome. Again, let's build it out. Let's add some berries on top, increase the fiber in there. And again, you can always include, have these little go-to options to increase that protein. For example, with eggs, you can boil a bunch of them in advance, keep them in the fridge for a few days. You can make a whole bunch in your Instant Pot if you have one. And just having a whole bunch of boiled eggs in the fridge that you can grab really quickly, again, makes it an easy way to bump up that protein at suhoor, inshallah. For those of you who want something even faster, definitely there's a smoothie option. Of course, that's a bit challenging for those of you who are in apartments like myself. You don't want to disturb the neighbors, but if you're in a home, everyone's waking up for suhoor anyway. Definitely a smoothie is a great option. And again, I really encourage you, have those quick pre-washed greens in your fridge on hand that you can just grab a handful and throw it into a smoothie if you're making one. And also another tip for that is that frozen spinach blocks actually go really well inside of smoothies too. So the types of frozen spinach blocks maybe you'd be cooking with, you can just toss those into your smoothie as well, and it will have that same unnoticeable effect. So that's a great way to increase the nutrition in your smoothie. Narhan is asking, what about protein powder if you're thinking about a smoothie? So protein powder, if you're using that to supplement an existing healthy diet, that's where protein powder fits in. So say that you're in a super rush, maybe you don't have enough time to add in other sources of protein. Definitely a protein powder might be a healthy option to add into your suhoor meal. I just want to make sure that you're not overly relying on it, right? So we want to make sure that that your iftar is going to be super healthy, high in protein. If you're able to get your protein from food sources, of course, that's always best. But as a little bit of an added protein boost inside your smoothie, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it can be a helpful strategy to use in Ramadan. Just make sure it's a protein powder that is no sugar added, and you're happy with it. It's a nice and clean protein powder that you enjoy, inshallah. And then for those of you who enjoy those more cultural types of suhoor meals, that's amazing. And actually having leftovers for suhoor is a great way to simplify your suhoor. You don't have to think about making something specific or something special. And just again, try and make it a little bit more variety, more food groups involved in your suhoor. So, and again, looking for those leftovers that are good, high in protein. Maybe it's a chickpea curry. Maybe it's something else that you had prepped from last night. Definitely, you can feel free to enjoy that at suhoor as well. And if that's something where we're able to add those little bit of extra greens, that's fantastic. Maybe you're having it with a side of whole wheat chapati from last night. All of that is fine to increase that fiber and just think about your suhoor as more of a meal instead of a snack. Just to make it more complex. Ful beans are of course a Ramadan favorite, and again, those are a fantastic suhoor option to enjoy in the morning. And you want to go based on your personal hunger level in the morning. So if you're able to, kind of have a bigger appetite, definitely feel free to, make that suhoor more robust so it stays with you longer. And of course, we cannot forget the star of the show is your water. During Ramadan, water is so critical to really make sure that you are staying hydrated throughout the day. And, I really encourage everyone to grab a gigantic water bottle, right? And just carry this around with you in your non-fasted hours and just be sipping as much as you can whenever you can. Especially during these mealtime opportunities, be drinking water before, during, and after your suhoor meal. And it's getting into that habit of sipping throughout those non-fasted hours instead of gulping water. I know that sometimes when we get really close to the time to start fasting, many of us will, if you're starting your suhoor late, you'll be chugging the water, trying to get it all in. But just having a water bottle even beside your bed so that you can start that hydration a little bit earlier and have that nice way of sipping your water and just working through your water bottle is really helpful. In terms of making sure you're getting enough water, I think that yes, maybe you got to see what works best for you. Is it helpful to say, okay, I'm going to split up my waters into having this many cups at this time throughout the day? If so, go for that. Or is it a case where you're just going to say, okay, I want to have a giant water bottle that I'm sipping throughout the day and getting into that habit? So decide whether you want to make it like fixed and what will help you stay hydrated best, inshallah. So obviously water is super helpful. And some final suhoor tips here for you. Obviously, we mentioned never skip suhoor. We don't want to increase the length of our fast unnecessarily. Obviously, we have a long fast ahead of us, so that suhoor is a fantastic opportunity to really energize your body, especially when we're adding in these amazing macronutrients that are going to stay with us for longer, inshallah. We always want to emphasize that hydration, whether that's fixed number of cups or you're sipping throughout a water bottle for sure. And of course, pre-made suhoor options are fantastic, right? So a go-to option is overnight oats. This is fantastic. You can throw all of these ingredients into a jar, refrigerated overnight, and then those oats will soak up the liquid and be nice and soft for you, ready in the morning. No cooking required. You can make a whole bunch of these with different flavors, different fruits, different styles, and you can have a different flavor for every day of the week if you want. And I always find that that's really helpful just to have that go-to option in the fridge. If you're not a morning person like me and you don't have that capacity in the morning to do something crazy, feel free to have go-to options in your fridge. Other option again is egg bakes. When you bake like a bit of a quiche, some beaten eggs with some veggies in it, put that in the oven, and then just you have that ready to go in the fridge. And again, we have recipes for all of these inside the Ramadan Reset Guidebook. Lots of pre-made suhoor options for you in there. Again, thinking about what can I make and what can I prep in advance, whether that's boiling your eggs in advance, make 6 or a dozen eggs depending on how many people are in your family. Keeping those in the fridge just decreases that stress at suhoor time, inshallah. Oftentimes if you're thinking about, okay, I want to make a smoothie, again, just trying to simplify that process process? Can you take all of your smoothie ingredients and put them in a reusable Tupperware and keep it in the freezer or in the fridge if it's just the night before, so it's ready to blend? Again, thinking about how we can prep in advance. And I also like saying, what's an emergency suhoor? You wake up, there's only a few minutes left, it was a hectic evening, and then you have a late start. So definitely, again, we want to try and hit those macronutrient groups, and really especially think about that protein option. Maybe you have a banana and a little thing of peanut butter next to your bed. Maybe it's one of those little single serve yogurt cups that you have. Of course, water. Really keep that by your bed so you're able to access that. Date balls, no sugar added date balls are fantastic to have there. Again, just to have some quick option for your emergency suhoor on those days where it's just a difficult day. So those are some suhoor tips, inshallah. Again, never skip that suhoor if you can. And having something that's right next to your bed is a great way just to make sure you have an emergency option, inshallah. So we talked about your suhoor meals, we talked about really thinking about energizing your fast, and I typically find that most people have an easier time making a healthy suhoor because you're starting off the fasting day right. There's this idea, there's this concept that, all right, I'm gonna have an energized suhoor, I wanna really power my fast. So there's that general concept of a healthy suhoor that I think is very easy for many families to follow. So I typically find that many Muslim families are very excited about having a healthy suhoor, but the real challenge comes at iftar. Yes, we all know that iftar is that challenging time. Let's paint that picture. You're going through your fasting day, you're feeling hungry, you're really looking forward to breaking your fast, enjoying that food, and the delicious smells are coming through the kitchen, and you're thinking about, oh, I can't wait to jump in there and start eating. And that is where often we see those, as you guys mentioned in the chat earlier, that food coma that comes up at iftar, that urge towards overeating that we find ourselves after iftar, really feeling like sluggish and lazy, and then we try and get to prayers and we're shifting from one foot to the other and trying to manage this digestion that's staying with us, all this food from this heavy meal, and we feel sleepy, we feel tired. Those are these big concerns at iftar. One study that looked at 173 Muslim families found that 60% of them gained weight in Ramadan. And then when they asked these families, okay, what do you attribute this weight gain to? 40% said it was because of eating heavy foods all Ramadan long, and also 15% said it was because of overeating. Even though we are fasting all day, of course, there's that tendency to just slip into overeating accidentally. So we want to talk about what are we eating at iftar, of course, and we also want to talk about how are we eating, which is where we're going to get into a little bit of mindful eating. So I think that that's a really important discussion to have in Ramadan, because mindful eating and the way we eat our foods is honestly just as important as what we are choosing to eat. So let's jump in. Of course, in iftar, what you're going to eat depends, and it's different based on you and your family and your culture. And so I want to give you principles that you're able to apply to all of your beautiful favorite cultural foods so you can enjoy the foods that your family eats. I don't want you to think, okay, I want to be healthy, so I want to have to make a special, bland, boring iftar. No, we want you to enjoy all of those wonderful foods, but again, make it fit you, make it fit your body in Ramadan. And maybe if you're a student, it looks like this. Again, let's look at what are your tendencies? What are your family's preferences? What does your situation tend to dictate your iftar? And then let's look at how can we apply some principles to make it a little bit healthier. So it's practical. I really want to focus on practical examples because I can give you all of these, kind of ideal iftar meals that are just too difficult to follow. And who wants to follow that either, right? You're having a long fast. We want to enjoy our foods at iftar, but we want to make it healthy too, inshallah. So it depends on your family and cultural preferences. We want to aim for balance. We want to aim for that beautiful energy while also enjoying your foods, inshallah. So I think that there's 3 practical ways to enjoy a healthy iftar. First of all, incorporate healthy eating principles into your existing cultural food preferences. So think about what do you typically have for iftar and then start applying these strategies we're going to talk about. We want to enjoy your favorite foods in moderation with portion control. Portion control is one of the best tools that we have to energize your fast and to really make sure that we're eating in a controlled way and also enjoying all of those foods. With portion control, you can enjoy all foods, inshallah. And we also want to have a big focus on mindful eating. So we're going to touch on all of those today, inshallah. So, what's for iftar? Let's jump in again with some of these helpful principles. Firstly, we want to be thinking about fluid-filled foods. When we think about iftar, often our immediate gut reaction is to think about how can we start eating, when in fact your body has been dehydrated throughout the day, so rehydrating yourself should be your top priority. So of course we want to be thinking about our water, definitely having our water on hand so we can start sipping that and start rehydrating your body. And we also want to be thinking about some amazing fluid-filled foods. Dates are fantastic here as well, of course, and that's a great way to break your fast as per the Sunnah. So you have your dates, you have your water, you're starting to feel more energetic, you have that beautiful energy feeling that happens as you're breaking your fast. And then we want to be thinking about increasing those fluid-filled foods. So this is why soups are a fantastic option to start off your iftar meal. This is also why in the Ramadan Reset Guidebook we have so many different soup options for you. We have tons of different soup varieties because we want to encourage you guys to try and add soups into your iftar meal. It's helpful to, again, add towards your rehydration, and it also helps avoid overeating later on in the meal. So having that beautiful soup to start off is great. Also fruits, those hydrating fruits especially are so popular. My dad he would cut up his watermelon, and then watermelon was something we would always look forward to at iftar. So be thinking about those hydrating options. Yogurt, also great option. Veggies, fantastic ways to think about fluid-filled foods. And we want to again be thinking about that hydration first, even as we're approaching our iftar meal. So you have your soup, you go, you pray your maghrib inshallah, now you're coming back, and now the real challenge begins, right? The real challenge of, enjoying your iftar while also avoiding overeating. So again, let's think about these principles. High fiber foods, we want to be thinking about those as, again, avoiding constipation is a challenge in Ramadan, right? So, many people will complain about that as we, later on throughout the month. So having these high fiber foods that we talked about, again, is a great way just to keep your digestive system moving. So again, we talked about dates. Those are beautiful, packed with fiber. Fruits, veggies, whole grains, lentils, fantastic options. Halim is a popular Ramadan meal, and of course that is packed with fiber. And again, in the Ramadan Reset Guidebook meal plan, we've planned it out so that you make sure that you get enough fiber every single day, and that's all done for you. So again, whenever you're thinking about increasing the fiber, an easy way to do that is to swap white options, white rice, white bread for brown rice, brown bread. It's higher fiber content, and again, it's going to stay with you longer as well. So thinking about that fiber is fantastic. Again, thinking about those high protein options, which I find that most Muslim families don't really have a problem with during Ramadan at iftar time. During iftar, many of us are going to immediately jump towards those animal protein sources. But again, trying to incorporate non-animal protein sources is fantastic. Your eggs, your beans, your lentils, yogurt, increasing those options, getting in that protein at iftar. I find that most Muslim families, no worries. There's a lot of protein on our iftar plates. And in terms of bloating, and in terms of feeling that bloat, everyone's a little bit different here because the foods that bloat us are a little bit different. So I think it's helpful, even if you're doing any voluntary fasts, just to try out some of the meals that you're thinking about during Ramadan and see how they make you feel and see how your body responds to them. Again, inside the Ramadan Reset Guidebook, we have tons of suggestions and meal plan ideas for you so that you don't have to think about it. But definitely having that trial period and allowing yourself some voluntary fasts is so beneficial, even in the remaining weekend that we have before Ramadan, just to ease your body into fasting and try out some of the food options that you're thinking of. And again, I like talking in principles. So we talked about, some of the things that you want to be focusing on. What are some of the things that, you want to be limiting or be mindful of, right? So again, I like talking about principles here. So high sugar foods are obviously going to be something that many of us find very tempting during Ramadan. So, and I want to highlight the fact that sometimes we think that those are like energizing or a pick-me-up, but there's an older study that really looked at, how do you feel in terms of your energy after having a sugary snack versus going for a walk. And actually a walk was more energizing than having a sugary snack. So definitely, I'm not saying don't have dessert throughout Ramadan. You definitely can. However, keep in mind that those high sugar options, they're not going to give you that type of long-lasting energy throughout your nighttime prayers. So thinking about always building out your healthy iftar plate first, and then having those sweet options, the dessert options afterwards. I really like saying the rule of one, whether that applies to a fried option or a dessert option in Ramadan. Thinking about how we can enjoy those options, but still keeping it in moderation. The rule of one is a great way to do that. And speaking of deep fried foods, obviously that's a big common one inside of Ramadan. I know that many people say that it doesn't feel like Ramadan without pakoras and samosas. And many of these traditional pastries, of course, they're really heavy and they're high in caloric density. And again, I'm not going to say don't have them in Ramadan, but keep in mind that they're not as nutritious as that main iftar meal. And so sometimes I know, and I've noticed that some people will make their iftar plate like a collection of savories, right? Like a little pastry here, a little samosa there, and kind of fill their plate with pastries. And that's not how you want to structure your iftar meal, right? So structure it, and we'll talk about those portion controls and give you like a plate guideline. Structure out your plate first, and then have that rule of one. Enjoy that one pastry, one samosa, whatever it is on the side as part of a healthy meal holistically. So avoid making your meal entirely these snacks, because again, we want to bump up the nutrition at iftar time. Enjoy it, but enjoy it in moderation. And also throughout your evening, avoid grazing on these these really heavy snack options, right? Keep them as your treats. A really simple way to do that is, if you have 5 people in your family, just make 5 samosas, right? You don't need to make like 15 samosas, because who's going to be eating them? You're going to be eating them. So, be careful in terms of even setting yourself up for success. If you're cooking it, someone's going to be eating it. So have those discussions with your family that, okay, if this is something that we have this tendency to overeat on these particular foods, how can we help ourselves enjoy them in Ramadan, but in a really healthy way? So making the amount that your family is going to eat is a great option. Also freezing ones that you're not going to eat immediately, especially when it comes to treats during Ramadan. Freezing the options that you're not going to eat. So say that you got like a huge box of Ramadan treats, or Ramadan desserts, or Ramadan pastries, and then you know that you're going to go through those in 3 days. Well, what if you just make some smaller portions of them and freeze the ones that you're not going to have, so that they're frozen solid, and there's a little bit of a barrier for you overeating all of them very quickly. And I know if you have them slowly throughout Ramadan, you're going to enjoy them more. So make that easier on yourself. And throughout my weight loss journey, I found that really portioning out foods and helping myself do that made it really easier, because I had that habit of overeating. And so when I implemented these steps to just make it easier on myself, and to not really put myself in situations where it was very, very difficult to stick to the principles that I wanted to have, I found that those strategies were extremely helpful in making my weight loss journey more practical.
Umama, she asked, what about air fryers? So
yes, thank you for bringing that up, Umama. Air frying is fantastic. So I'm so glad you brought that up. Air frying is awesome because you're able to get that replication of that fried food feeling without actually using, that heavy frying process. So get yourself an air fryer and use it. Samosas in the air fryer turn out great. Little chicken nuggets, any of those, they work so great in the air fryer, and that is absolutely a great idea. So air fryers are awesome. I did have one, and I loved it.
Yeah, we recently invested in an air fryer too.
Awesome. Again, if as we're going through, if you're thinking, okay, these are fantastic principles, if you want a full meal plan to break this down for you, definitely do check out our Ramadan Reset Guidebook. It's a fantastic resource that has all of those healthy ethnic recipes in there. It has the full meal plan as well for you, and it's so much more than just the meal plan, right? It's this complete comprehensive resource to address your total body health, your sleep, your water, your coffee, highlighting a lot of these things about Ramadan fasting that can just energize your body. You can see in the meal plan, we lay it out really, really clearly. So this is some of the sample meal plan pages. You'll see your suhoors laid out. You'll see your iftar. You'll have your soups that you'll be going through. You'll have your, your dinner option. It's all laid out with your sides, your main meal, water suggestions. We also have suggested post-workout smoothies, different ones every day. Those also double as a great suhoor if you want to have those. And also snacks are a fantastic option as well, that again, we list those out for you. So literally, you know that you have those healthy options to go to. And also in terms of the recipes, we were really, really mindful of, sharing recipes that are ethnic and diverse from around the world, that are foods that your family is going to love to eat, but are also super healthy and energizing. And we've made those options healthier. We collaborated with many food bloggers to, kind of create these, and talented home cooks. So you'll see there's this amazing variety in terms of even the ethnic food options that are in the guidebook. They're tasty, they're fun, they're exciting, they're new and different options that we hope that you will enjoy with your family during Ramadan and beyond, inshallah. Here's some of the examples of the soups that we have. We have so many different soup options that, again, you can just expand your options with your Ramadan foods. Try new foods. I think that is super helpful during Ramadan. So there's a lot in there, and we really love to hear all of those fantastic reviews. Nora's saying that she loves the recipes, mashallah, that's amazing. And I think that one of the things that myself and my husband took away from the guidebook is that it helped us prepare more recipes and try out new foods from different cultures, what we normally wouldn't have tried, or we normally wouldn't have known, kind of how to incorporate those foods into a healthy diet. So we're really excited and proud of the guidebook. And of course, 100% of all profits from the guidebook are donated to charity. So definitely check it out. You can get it at ramadanreset.com. So yeah, do check that out. And if you have any questions about the guidebook, please feel free to email me or message me, inshallah. Of course, when we're talking about food, portion control is one of the best ways that we can really enjoy all of our foods in Ramadan. Maybe you've seen this diagram before from Harvard University, the healthy eating plate, and I think that this is so easy and a really great way to portion out your plates. We've all seen, if you go to Masjid Iftars before a COVID time, and you'll see that the way that most Muslims portion out their food is they have their plate, they put all the rice on, then they put all the meat on top, and you have a little mountain, and then there'll be a small little handful of veggies on the side. Shift our way that we think about the plate. So think about dividing your plate into quadrants. Half of that, the first thing you should put on your plate is going to be your veggies, right? So you can either make that all veggies or have a little bit of fruits in there as well. So if you do that, again, it's very hard to overeat if half of your plate is taken over by fibrous, nutritious veggies and fruits. So think about that, adding those in. And then we also, on that remaining half of your plate, think about splitting that up into your carbohydrate source. So not only whole grains here, I think that it's helpful to expand this definition. Think about, all of your complex carbohydrates here. So you can be thinking about, whether that's adding sweet potatoes in, whether that's adding other, really carbohydrate-rich vegetables like yams or broccoli. All of those are fantastic options even to build that out. So you have your carbohydrates going in there, grains, breads, all of that is in there, and then your remaining quadrant is for your healthy proteins, right? So splitting up your plate into this, it's simple, but it's effective. So if this is something that you're not implementing yet, try it out. Try using your plate as this quadrant portion control method, inshallah, and that's going to be super helpful. Of course, remembering your water at all times, sipping throughout the day, and always try and start off your meals with water. Studies have shown that people who drink more water at mealtime end up eating less, because again, it's a tool to manage overeating, and that's a fantastic way to really watch your overeating. So that's one strategy for portion control, looking at the plate. Another strategy that I really love sharing is the hand portion strategy that any of you in my Amanah bootcamp will be familiar with. So when we're thinking about portioning at our plate, again, you can use the Harvard Healthy Plate Guidelines. You can also use your hands. And the best thing about using your hands is that everyone's hands are a suitable size for their body. So if you think about your hand and you cup your hand, the amount of kind of grains that would fit into a cupped hand is equivalent to 1 serving. So that actually works out really well. That's kind of like one ladle of, whether that's rice or anything else. So, your carbohydrates, your grains, think about that 1 handful, and at your, your iftar meal, maybe have 2 handfuls of carbohydrates, no problem. That's a really easy way to portion out your carbohydrates. And protein is equal to the palm of your hand, right? And so you can think of that kind of like a deck of cards, or that palm of your hand. So compare what looks like that. A chicken breast kind of looks like that, right? Or kind of a scoop of a curry looks like that. So kind of consider that. I think that this is so critical to mention, because I know when I was overweight, I was eating far beyond my body, what my body needed, and I didn't realize how much I was overeating. And it wasn't until, I had that first early consult with the dietitian long ago, and, we looked at all of these different food models in terms of what do portion control sizes look like, that I realized, wow, I'm literally eating like 4 times more than this at every single meal. And your body becomes just habituated to eating that way. So using these portion control strategies is really helpful to have that recalibration effect. And I think that Ramadan is such a beautiful time to have that recalibration. We're having that spiritual reset. Let's also have that, physical reset as well, where we're looking at how much we're eating and how much we have conditioned ourselves to eat at mealtime. Often we'll find that we're overloading our bodies, and of course that leads to that food coma at iftar and unwanted weight gain. So thinking about and looking at the way that you're portioning at your food, having that observation mindset when it comes to our food is super, super helpful. And I think that portion control is one of the best ways that we can enjoy all the foods, but in the right amounts, inshallah. So thinking about, and I think often when we talk about healthy eating, and about weight loss in general, we often talk about what do we have to take away? What do we have to take away from your body, from your plate? What do we have to take away from your foods? I like to think about what we can add, right? So what is helpful to add? If we're not taking anything away, what can we add onto your plate to make it super helpful? So salad on your plate first is a fantastic thing to add. We want to, of course, be adding more water. That's going to be helpful. Mindful eating is super helpful, and we're actually going to talk a lot about mindful eating and how to make that work, and really what is mindful eating and the health psychology behind it. So I'm excited to share that with you. And key point is to slow down, relax, and enjoy your food, and allow yourself that spirit of gratitude instead of gluttony, which I really love kind of reflecting on in Ramadan, inshallah. Let's jump into overeating versus mindful eating. What is this concept of mindful eating, and how can it help us in Ramadan? This is a topic that I'm super passionate about, especially because I've seen that impact in my own life from my own weight loss journey. And first I want to jump into overeating, some advice from the companions. This is so helpful because, oftentimes when we're talking about overeating, I feel that it's, from this perspective of always just thinking about weight loss and weight gain. However, I found it very beautiful that the companions actually stress the importance of avoiding overeating because of the spiritual implications. And I think that is never more highlighted than during Ramadan. So the companion, Al-Harith ibn Kalada, he was actually a doctor and a companion as well during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, said, that which has killed mankind is the introduction of food on top of food before it has been digested. So that's highlighting the fact that when you are overeating, it creates this negative spiritual state. And the famous companion Umar ibn al-Khattab also said, and this is so beautiful, he said that, "Oh people, beware of eating too much, for it makes you lazy in prayer, is bad for your body, and causes sickness." This is so fascinating because he's directly drawing the parallels between overeating and an implication on prayer performance. So overeating, he's saying that it makes you lazy in prayer. And we all know when you have that iftar food coma, it's difficult to stand for prayer. It's difficult to engage in these physical acts of worship that we want to make the highlight of our Ramadan. So he also said, rather you should be moderate in your eating, for that is closer to righteousness and farther removed from extravagance and makes one stronger to worship Allah. No person will be doomed unless he gives precedence to his desires over his deen. So strong words that he's saying here about emphasizing the dangers of overeating for a Muslim audience. And I think that this is so beautiful to reflect upon, that the companions knew that overeating had an implication on our spirituality, and especially in Ramadan, we want to get the most out of our performance inside of our prayers, inshallah. Many of you know the famous Imam Shafi. He said that I have not filled myself or eaten to my fill in 16 years, because filling oneself makes the body heavy, it removes clear understanding, it induces sleep, and makes one weak for worshiping Allah. Again, this link between overeating and reduced performance in our worship. So, and the scholar Ibn Rajab, he also wrote the famous commentary of the 40 Hadith of Imam Nawawi that you probably are aware of. He said that spiritual benefits for eating in moderation include humbleness of heart, strength of understanding, curbing one's desires, lessening of personal opinions and anger. Overeating induces the opposite of all of the above. SubhanAllah. So again, reflecting on the fact that the early scholars of Islam, the companions, were highlighting the spiritual implication of overeating. And that's such a beautiful concept for us as Muslims to reflect upon today. Again, too often the discussion of overeating is purely from a physiological perspective, or purely from a weight loss or weight gain perspective. What are the spiritual implications of overeating? And reflecting on that in Ramadan, I think, is fantastic motivation to really remind ourselves that overeating is not just, it was something that we laugh about. Often we have this cultural desensitization towards overeating, and it's almost like a joke, right? Like we all joke about that iftar food coma. We all joke about kind of that, overeating and feasting instead of fasting. We joke about that, but at the same time, it's not a laughing matter, and we know that it has those negative consequences throughout our fast. So reflecting on these beautiful examples, I think to me has been so powerful in emphasizing that overeating in your food choices, it's beyond your body. It impacts your soul. So let's talk about mindful eating. So the mindful difference, a mindful way to approach our food. So some people approach food and eat with frenzy, and this is culturally promoted, right? One of the worst ads that comes up on YouTube is this ad for this fast food chain, and it's like, it's basically promoting, the theme song for that is like, I don't care, I love it. And then you see kind of these people like devouring this fast food. And it's like, subhanAllah, like this is the culture that's being promoted when we think about our food. We're thinking about this kind of like rush, grab the food, stuff it in our mouth, and this is promoted in advertising, right? So this approach to food, eating quickly, getting to the end of your meal, adding more. Advertisers want you to do that, because when you eat that quickly, you're going to be eating a lot more. So people who eat very quickly find themselves overeating regularly, and they don't really fully enjoy their meals, right? When we're so focused on stuffing the food in, we don't take that time to settle in and enjoy it. Versus the mindful difference. Some people approach food in this gentle, slow way. They pause frequently, they taste each bite, they stop eating when they're full, and they don't deprive themselves. That's the key thing about mindful eating. It's not about deprivation. It's about eating what you want and enjoying it thoroughly. So what is mindful eating? Mindful eating is eating with intention and attention. So both of these are components of mindful eating. Having that intention when we approach our food, and as we are eating, having attention to be mindful of the way that we are eating it and consuming. So eating with the intention of caring for your body, respecting that body, thinking that, this is a food, this is a blessing from Allah. I'm going to have that intention of eating to energize myself, eating with the intention of avoiding, those negative effects that happen when we overeat. That's that intention that we want to start with. And I think that it's such a powerful thing when we start eating to really reflect upon saying Bismillah, in the name of Allah, beginning our meal with that dhikr, with that gratitude. That's how we set our intention when we approach our food. And I think that for so many of us, reminder to myself and all of us, as well, that when we, we're for many of us, especially those of us who are born Muslim, grow up Muslim, just saying Bismillah before we eat is like something that is just a matter of habit, right? It's like Bismillah, start eating. But again, taking that time to pause and really reflect upon saying Bismillah, feeling that gratitude for this food, has such a profound impact when we slow down and think about it. And I think that reflecting on that, bringing it out of the ordinary is super, super helpful when it comes to approaching the food. So that's that intention about the food. And then eating with attention, that is where we take that time to notice, appreciate, and enjoy the food. Both of those together is how we eat with a spirit of gratitude instead of gluttony as we're going through. So this is from the Choose My Plate message. Definitely, we talked about that plate portion rule where we have, what you're eating is on your plate, right? We said that we want veggies, we want fruit, we want that half of your plate. That's that portion control, that plate portion that we all know about. So I want to share with you another plate, which is the mindful eating plate. And this is a fantastic way just to highlight some of the essentials of mindful eating. So we want to observe, right? So, and really, honestly, if you just think of a really simple way to do mindful eating, is to engage all of your 5 senses when you're eating and allow those 5 senses to really highlight what you're eating as you're eating it, instead of just getting in the food in as quickly as possible. Yes, this takes some thinking, but that thinking allows you to slow down and enjoy. So first we want to observe. So we want to notice what you're feeling in your body. We want to notice those hunger cues that you're feeling. And we also want to notice as those hunger cues change as you're eating throughout the meal. How is your fullness changing as you're eating your food? That takes noticing, right? And that is one of the best ways that we can connect with how are we actually feeling, and are we eating because we're hungry, or are we eating because there's food on our plate? And we're the ones who put that food on our plate, right? So having that approach to observe what's in our body, and also observe the food in front of us, the color, the textures, observing that. Then we want to think about savoring. So we want to be noticing the textures, the smells. Taking time to leave that food in your mouth for longer allows you to enjoy it more, and is so key on that mindful eating and avoiding overeating. So think about those textures as they're in their food. How is eating an orange different in your mouth? Has a different mouth feel than a popper or some roti or some rice in your mouth, right? Like feel those different textures while you're enjoying it inside of your mouth, that mouth feel, savoring that food like that. And thinking about being aware of that food that we're eating. So that tasting, really allowing yourself to really taste what are you eating. My grandmother, may Allah have mercy on her, would often say that the food's only in your mouth, and that's when you can taste it. So enjoy it while it's in your mouth. And it's so true. Oftentimes we are just thinking about the next bite. And one of the ways that you can notice if there's that next bite mindset is, do you put your spoon down or your fork down between bites, or are you grabbing it here, ready to go for the next bite when the first one's still in there? Taking that time to slow down, be present in the moment, and again, removing that judgment that many of us have around food. Oftentimes it's such a toxic culture when we approach eating, that we're stuffing in the food, we're eating so quickly, and we're judging ourselves throughout the whole time. We're literally having this spiral of negative self-talk that why are you eating so much? Oh, just one more. Oh, why? And it's toxic because we're not enjoying the food, because we're guilting ourselves while we're having it. So separate that judgment out of it. If you're eating the food, enjoy it and move the that judgment has no place, and it has no positive bearing on your health at all. So avoid that judgmental tone and focus on enjoying and appreciating and savoring the food that you are eating. That's what mindful eating is all about. And one of the key principles, the number one takeaway that I want you to have from mindful eating, is to slow it down, right? People who take time to chew and chew slowly, research shows that they have better digestion, they feel fuller, and also this very interesting research study from Japan found that slower eaters typically had a lower body mass index and smaller waist circumference. So again, this is this habit trend. Slowing down results in better health outcomes. This is another study just from last year that found that faster eaters consumed more calories every day. Just because you're eating more quickly, you're going to be intaking more food. Faster eaters also had a increased body weight, higher BMI likelihood, higher waist circumference, higher blood pressure, and we're twice as likely to develop that overweightedness. So thinking about slowing down is one of the best ways that we can enjoy our food in Ramadan. We don't need to have this rush attitude that so many of us have, when we approach our iftar meals. And so often that's the culture. Like if you think back to previous before COVID time, and you think about any group iftar or any masjid iftar or iftar party, just think about how people eat at iftar time. It's like, there's a race to the finish line. And so rewiring ourselves and having that slowed down approach to food is so helpful. And I think that also, allowing yourself to pray maghrib and then go eat helps with that as well, so that there's not something that you're trying to rush and get to, right? After we have to quickly eat and then go pray. Giving yourself that time is so helpful as well. And of course, starting with Bismillah makes such a profound, big impact. So just to wrap up this discussion, I want to emphasize that practical is always better than perfect. There is no perfect when it comes to food choices. It's about being practical and looking at the foods that you and your family loves, enjoying those foods. Don't deprive yourself and don't guilt yourself over the foods that you're enjoying with your family, because it doesn't have any positive impact at all. So enjoy your foods, but try and incorporate these healthy eating principles into those existing food choices that you're having at home. Thinking about that portion control, thinking about that mindful eating, thinking about how to incorporate more of those macronutrients into the choices that you're having is such a simple way to make sure that we're eating healthier without getting all nitpicky, like, I'm having to have this specific diet. I want to avoid diet thinking, because for myself, I was overweight for my whole life, and I had followed so many of these specific diets and always found it so difficult to follow and maintain, because there would always be situations where I wouldn't be able to follow that. So, I want you to have that approach to food that you can apply it to any situation, because that's what your health is all about. It's those choices you make every single day. So having these principles that we can apply, it just goes so far in terms of making it practical. And again, enjoy those favorite foods. Keep in mind that portion control as we go, and allow yourself that process of relearning, right? So this was particularly for me when I was overweight, struggling with my weight. Our approach and understanding of how much our body needs is skewed. It's skewed based on our past history and the way that we eat. So giving yourself that time to recalibrate and looking at those portion control tools as a learning lesson is helpful. So definitely at the beginning of my weight loss journey, I was, looking at my plate and being much more careful. Okay, here's half your plate, here's a quarter of the plate, and really allowing myself to look at what does that look like? What does a well-portioned plate look like? And then now, years later, that's much more a second nature now. But it took a long time to rewire that process, to rewire that habit I had of just putting everything on the plate as much as would fit. So giving yourself that time, and I think that Ramadan is such a fantastic option to recalibrate with that, inshallah. All right, so let's jump into the Q&A. What are your Ramadan food struggles? Drop those inside the chat, and let's jump in and ask some questions. We had some questions about the Ramadan Reset guidebook coming in, so you can get that at ramadanreset.com. So once you get that, it's an interactive PDF that you can download from our members area as soon as you sign up. If you have need any help, any questions, you can feel free to send us an email. We are here to support you, inshallah, with the guidebook. So that's a download, and it's an interactive PDF, 158 pages packed with info to power your healthy Ramadan, inshallah. So any questions about that, feel free to let me know. Coffee can count towards your daily fluid intake. Now, the thing is that you want to stay within what you're currently drinking, right? So not exceeding that, because coffee drinkers develop a tolerance towards coffee. So if you're currently drinking a certain amount, your body has developed tolerance towards that, and you're fine to continue drinking that amount. But we don't want to suddenly increase our coffee intake. I don't think anyone really does that in Ramadan anyway. And we also want to avoid over-consuming coffee beyond a safe amount of 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine. So keeping your coffee intake moderate, but actually there was a a fantastic study that was conducted called the Beverage Hydration Index, and they compared coffee versus other drinks and looked at the hydrating effects of other drinks. And coffee was actually no more dehydrating than drinking water. So absolutely, coffee and tea can be part of your Ramadan hydration. So definitely feel free to enjoy those, no problem. And do check out that full video on coffee in Ramadan. That will be super helpful. For those of you who start your work with coffee, if you want to have coffee at suhoor, that's no problem. Definitely, I would say wrap up your suhoor with a little bit of with water at the end of it, though, just to kind of get that nice mouthfeel as you're starting off your fast. Nisreen mentioned how to avoid the headaches that we often have in Ramadan, and that's a really good question that many of us have. Increasing your water intake is so helpful. Many of us have those headaches because we're thinking about food first, when again, in fact, thinking about water first is so helpful. So drinking more as much as you can, and also trying to get your body into a comfortable state of a chronobiological phase shift as quickly as you can. Many of the symptoms of fatigue, headaches, tiredness that we experience is because your body kind of feels jet lagged in Ramadan. We have a new sleeping schedule, we have a new eating schedule, and that's challenging for your body to adapt to. So regularity in your sleep schedule in Ramadan is one of the best things you can do to help ease your body in. So being super regular with when you're going to sleep, when you're waking up, and trying to pick a Ramadan schedule that allows you to have that amazing worship focus that you can say, okay, this is my Ramadan schedule, get regular quickly. That regularity will have such a profound impact on your energy and help you reduce headaches. Get regular with whatever you're doing. Pick a schedule and start it now with your voluntary fast. Allow your body to ease into fasting. Many of us, when we start Ramadan, we'll be kind of like a little bit frantic trying to make everything work, and our sleeps, and sometimes we'll be sleeping early, sometimes sleeping later. The more that you can help your body acclimatize to fasting, get regular, that is so helpful to ease this chronobiological phase shift. So give yourself that time. That's going to be super helpful, and drink that water to avoid the headaches. Sayeda, I love that it said, while you fast, your eye's appetite gets bigger than your actual need. This is so true. And it's natural, of course, when you've been not eating the whole day. Of course, you're like, oh, I want to make up for that food. You do not need to make up for the food that you did not eat at iftar. Okay, let's get that into the way. Say it. You do not need to make up for the missed food at iftar time, right? That's one of the reasons when that study that I mentioned that 60% of people gained weight in Ramadan, and of that 15% said it was because they were overeating even though they were fasting. Take out this approach that, I didn't eat at lunch, so I can eat extra at iftar. Eat an amount that's going to fuel your body, and remember that your stomach has a fixed capacity. So if you're having that mindset that I'm gonna overeat, I'm gonna make up my missed meal, you're going to overeat, and we know all of those, those repercussions on our energy, on our spirituality, on our ability to focus in prayer. So we don't want to make up that missed meal. We want to really be thinking about how can we make this meal energizing our night to come, inshallah. Multivitamins, supplements. Again, I like keeping things really simple. I think that we should prioritize healthy, nutritious foods. If there's anything that you're currently doing, definitely speak with your doctor and do what makes you comfortable during Ramadan as well. I think that when it comes to energy and mood boosting, so often we think I need to get a mood boost or an energy boost from a particular supplement, when in fact, I personally feel that you will see such a profound impact when we clean up our healthy eating and focus on that first, and our hydration. That's going to make such a huge impact. Mrs. Faika mentioned that she takes vitamin D. Of course, if you have any particular deficiencies and you've spoken to your doctor about that, definitely address those and make sure that you're staying on top of that during Ramadan. But in general, thinking about your food first and supplements to supplement a healthy lifestyle. So thinking about your healthy eating choices first. If we make some recipes from around the world, on YouTube, how can we make YouTube recipes helpful? I think that first of all, thinking about that portion control is super helpful, that you remember you can make any meal, any food healthy. It's about how much you're eating and how you're eating it as well. Add that portion control and mindful eating, super helpful. Also, when it comes to specific swaps, think about the principles we talked about. You know that you want more fiber, more veggies, and more protein in your foods. So are there room in the recipe to add some more of that? So if the recipe calls for white rice, can you swap in brown rice? That's a great way to make it more fibrous. Can you, add some veggies? Can you sneak some spinach in? Can you toss in some carrots? Thinking about how we can add more veggies, more fiber, more protein is fantastic. So that's a great way. I think that a simple swap to make healthy eating simpler. Someone's asking about specific dieting programs. Again, I am not a fan of diets. I love the approach. Make your healthy eating something you can stick to, something that's based on principles that you can apply, whether you're eating delicious food at your mom's house or you're at an iftar party or you're eating on your own. It shouldn't be restrictive and it shouldn't be something that's difficult to follow. If a meal plan or a diet plan requires you to have to pay all this significant investment in supplements and specific foods and meal replacements, that's how you know it's not a sustainable lifestyle, right? I want you to be eating food. I want you to be eating real, delicious, cooked food, and making those food choices healthier options is what I found not only is sustainable for others and from the clients that I've coached, but that's what worked for me. I tried so many diets on my own weight loss journey, and applying principles is really what helped. All right, I think that we got to all the questions. Fantastic. Jazakallah khair everyone for joining us. I hope that you all benefit from the Ramadan Reset Guidebook. We've gone through and made sure that it is super helpful to really give you that plan if you want something specific to follow, so you know exactly the soups, the snacks, the smoothies, the meals, the Suhoor, the Iftar. If you want it all planned out for you, the Ramadan Reset Guidebook will do that for you. And we love hearing your feedback on the guidebook. We love hearing how you're enjoying the recipes, inshallah. So let us know how it goes. If you have any questions, let us know. And we're so glad that you were able to join us on this webinar. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to reach Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you and your family to have a healthy, high energy Ramadan. And just from me, Jazakallah khair for joining. And, thank you for sharing this time with us. Throughout Ramadan, of course, we'll be in touch, sharing more healthy tips, more healthy videos as we go through Ramadan together. And we always look forward to hearing your feedback from this webinar and others. So let us know how you benefited from it, inshallah, or if you have any suggestions for improvement. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for joining us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.